Yep, hello. How's it going? Tangerine.
This is Minecraft 2.
I'm getting a rock. Don't be fooled by the rock that I got. I'm still Jenny from the block.
Okay, I see. This is Minecraft 2 though, right? Okay,
Yeah. So
so
this is Muck,
Muck.
and if you guys
Like,
want to hear a funny meme, spell Muck backwards, guys.
how are we
It's
spelling Muck?
Muck.
Okay, the normal way.
Yeah. That's how you spell it. But if you want to have a good laugh, spell it backwards, guys. That's the whole meme. But
Oh,
this is basically Muck is a survival roguelike. Collect resources, find items, and build a base to survive for as long as you can. I think this is the first ever survival roguelite I've ever played. It's a very unique game, and basically, it was just I was browsing Steam one day, and I just saw this Muck game on Steam, and it was like, oh, it's free to play, but it actually looks like a legit game. So I was like checking it out, and people were saying it's really good. And I was like,
from
okay,
what
I'll try
from what
playing
that
it.
sounds like, it sounds like what you actually wanted, like from like the first few nights in Minecraft, where like you actually have something to actually try and survive against.
Yeah, so it has like a sort of boss rush sort of thing where you're trying to progress through um, the nighttime where all the mobs spawn, and that's when the challenge comes because every nighttime the enemies get more powerful. The best
Yeah,
way I can sum up this game quickly is it's if you've I've talked about Risk of Rain before, but it's basically like Risk of Rain mixed with like Rust or Minecraft or RuneScape. It has like a lot of like RuneScape references in it.
yeah.
Um,
It looks like RuneScape a little bit.
but I feel like it's like yeah, it'll make sense when like the enemies come. Why I say it's Risk of Rain? It has that like in Risk of Rain you have that physical slider at the top that has like the difficulty scaling on it that goes
Yeah.
it's easy, hard, hard, super hard, ha 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 is one of the difficulties,
Is
and
that what it says at the end?
that's one of the hardest
Okay,
difficulties in
right.
Risk of Rain 2, yeah. But basically, one of the main things to do in this game is you find these golden chests. The only way to get gold is is by killing enemies, basically early game. And the way you get enemies is they spawn at night, or you can basically click on these challenge shrines, which is another thing like Risk of Rain 2. And then these give you basically these roguelite power ups. So you'll have one that will increase your damage, one will increase your health, and then you need to like keep using those to scale. But at the same time, you're farming resources, you're gathering woods, you're building a base. I never found I built a base that much in this. It
Yeah,
just
you
never
miss
seemed.
it.
So the thing with enemies is um, they will attack. So this is a shrine, as I was talking
Oh
about.
my
This is
god.
combat. If you're not used to it, this is my first time playing, so I'm getting my ass kicked. I have completed the game, um, but I was like, I'm gonna click on this shrine. And it's like, oh god, I'm getting attacked by a bunch of goblins. So this is why I'm doing terribly. But um, when you get attacked, enemies will attack your workbenches and your furnaces and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if you build a base around it, they'll hit the walls first. So it's good to defend your stuff from getting destroyed because
Yeah, yeah.
it's super useful like if you're playing co-op like I am because this is like this has multiplayer and it's a really good multiplayer game to play with friends. Um, you're gonna want to put chests down because you have limited inventory space. If they destroy a chest, it'll just make all of your items go like flying everywhere. So it is like you kind of want to build some defenses, but you never want to build too much. There I am. I'm dead.
Oh, you're dead. Okay.
So when you're playing a
That's not.
multiplayer,
That's
when you die, your friends can res you by going to your tombstone, and I don't. They can't res you at night. And the more you die, or like the longer the game goes on, I'm never sure what it was. The longer it takes for you to before you can get resed. Um, yeah. So the
so wait. So
main.
okay. So being not able to be rest at nights. You're just down until the
Yeah,
morning.
I'm spectating right now. I'm
Yeah,
waiting
yeah.
for my friends to figure out what the hell is happening
The
again. This is our first playthrough.
loading of trees is interesting.
Hmm. So this, before I go any further, this game is made by Danny, and if you don't know Danny, he's like,
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a boss. I think someone used one of the boss challenge shrines because that guy will just fuck you up if you because we got no perks because we have no idea what's going on.
Is that dinosaur? Can you
Danny's
see that
making
boss
like
symbol?
the very incredibly popular game Carlson, which is an unreleased game, but I think it's like gained super traction from like social media, like
Right.
his like Twitter and YouTube and stuff, like showing the development of the game. It looks like a really interesting game. And like based on the development of like Muck, it seems like that would be something really interesting to play because him throwing together is like this game is super high quality and it's free to play on Steam. And I would just it's not like free to play microtransactions, it's actually just a free high quality good game.
Mm. It's good to
Um
see.
so the main idea is you need to go around, kill these monsters, get gold coins, get perks, so that you're strong enough to keep fighting the ultimate difficulty. While you're doing that, you also need to be resource gathering because you need to upgrade your tools, build new buildings, and then there is eventually a story mode. I think in before he did some updates for it. I mean, this game only came out like this year, I think, but he's been doing quite a few updates to it. Um, Before he did update, I think it was just endless. It was basically like Risk of Rain 2 originally, where
Right.
you would just keep scaling and the enemies would just keep scaling and you just try and go as long as possible. But he actually added an
Yeah,
ending
yeah.
to the game.
Oh,
So
okay, right.
there's actually like an ending now. So you'll find like a map, and the map will take you to a boat. And you basically find that this boat's broken, and in order to repair the boat, you need to craft certain things. And you also
Okay.
find another map that has gems, and to get each of these gems, you have to defeat a boss, basically. And then, so you need to be able to strong enough to kill the bosses, and you need the materials in order to build the boat. That's all of us dying there. We
Interesting.
survived for one
Yeah.
day. In the
One
early
day
game,
is.
we uh we didn't survive very long. There's three difficulties as well. There's easy, normal, gamer, and then you can turn player damage on and off. And you can also play like we did play one mode of versus, and it turns it into like a battle royale mode, which is pretty interesting. It's like Hunger Games from Minecraft, where you
Yeah,
all
yeah.
spawn in and you're all trying to gather
Well,
resources while trying
that's
to
it.
like kill AI and then like be the first. It basically like, it has a closing circle like a battle royale. Like versus mode in this is
Okay,
really fun
right.
as well. I turn player damage
How does
on to prank
creative work
people.
though?
Basically, you can just build whatever without having to gather
Okay.
resources, sort of thing. I don't think creative mode doesn't make you invincible, but it like massively reduces damage to a point where you struggle to be killed, sort of thing.
Yeah. You got infinite resources as
Um,
well, or
yeah, I think I've never tried creative mode, but from what I've told from my friends who did try creative mode, that's similar to how it is.
okay, okay.
If you're in early game, my recommendations would be to grab a rock, start cutting down trees, get a bunch of wood, get a bunch of rock, and run around and look for. There is like free chests, so you can actually get. I thought it was just normal tree. There's different types of trees that requires different types of axes to cut down. There is chests you can open for free, and there's stuff for exploring. You'll find like chests with like random equipment in them. So I'd highly recommend you go and like pick those up. Um, but yeah, if you want a spoiler alert, well, like, honestly, there's not really a story to this. But basically, at the end, if you don't know what happens on the boat, then close your ears now. But basically, you rebuild the boat, and then there's a boss fight with a dragon called Bob. That's what happens at the end, and hopefully by that point you're strong enough to kill him. Which, if you've got this far to the boat, you probably are. One of the This game's really fun. I really like the power up system, but my major gripe with this game in terms of multiplayer is it feels like a lot of the time it's hard to progress unless you funnel resources into one person, where you basically just give them all the perks and they're basically your warrior guy who goes and kills all the monsters. And then
Yeah, I think I was overhearing from like when I was in the call while you guys were playing. Like it sounded like at one point you like had like all of the money.
yeah, I
You
think
had
I was
all of
playing
something, and you had to
with
feed
it
them.
was like me and Saunders were playing, and
Right.
he was fine. He was like, I just want to see what happens at the end. I'm just going to be the gatherer dude. You be the warrior dude, and you go and fight them. Which is a fine way to do it if you like that sort of thing. But like, majority of people are
Yeah.
not going to want to spawn, die, and be like, oh, I'm like
Yeah.
It feels like my one major criticism of this game is you're playing single player, you will not experience this at all, and you can definitely play this game single player. It's a good single player experience, but it has my same complaint with Risk of Rain 2 because it's incredibly similar, which is sometimes someone will take all of the resources, then they will be the only one able to get resources from the perks.
Yeah.
And then they will be the only one basically able to play the game. It's it's got multiplayer, but it's almost set up in a way where you kind of most of the time it's going to end up being like one person playing the game sort of thing, much like Fallout 76, Tony.
Right. Okay.
No, we won't mention that now.
We'll talk about that in a different video.
But yeah, that's basically Muck.
Yeah, it looks good. I think it's a cool concept, and I mean I'm from the Minecraft background. I'm just thinking. I wonder what mods what can you learn from this that other mods for Minecraft you could learn.
I think the idea of like real boss progressions are really cool.
Yeah,
I think,
but I quite like the fact that you can like tree progression. I really quite like that. Like, this is like a basic tree. This needs like a more advanced that. I quite like that. Because I feel like only mining has that in Minecraft. Like, I kind of wish that more stuff had more progression. Yeah, this is really good though, and the art style is interesting as well. I can't believe this is free then. Like, this is so
yeah. You legit could charge like £15 for some people would buy it.
Yeah, I'd probably wait for a sale if it was that price. But yeah, like I don't see why not.
This is a very good game, and it's criminal that it's free, almost, guys. So definitely check this one out, even if you're playing solo, if you're playing with friends, a very good time. Next up we have Phantom Abyss. I think I've talked about this on the podcast before. I showed some trailers from it because I saw it from Devolver Digital, and I said, "This is a game design. This is a game designed for me because it's a roguelite platformer asymmetric game, which is quite unique, but it's like I love roguelites, 2 I love platforming, and 3 I love like multiplayer games of any sort. So like the sort of idea that you could run a platforming roguelike game but also be competing against other players is pretty interesting. But the way it does it is really interesting because if you've never heard of this game, basically there's a temple, and in the middle of the temple there's a relic, and inside at the very bottom there's one relic, and only one person in the world can get it from that temple. But what happens is everyone who went into that temple, when they die, you can only try to complete a temple once. But when they die, they leave behind a ghost. And that ghost will interact with the environment from their play run in your run. And it makes it very interesting because you can watch the ghost and you can go, oh, that person died doing that. I won't do that. Or that person...
It's like even more than Dark Souls, you actually see like how the ghost died.
It gets even more than that. Because I'll go into that in a second. You get to see what they did right. That they might go, oh, there's a secret area here that I saw because of that ghost. That becomes really interesting. But it gets even more unique when you've realised that the ghosts, when they open a chest, it opens for you. When a ghost sets off a trap, it sets off the trap for you.
Oh, that's really cool.
So people are playing in your multiplayer game while they don't even realise it. Because they're just doing their run, but their actions in their run affect your game. And it's this really interesting asymmetric multiplayer game that I'll get into. Let's go through the tutorial and see if I have some footage of me. So here's the ghosts. That's how it works.
So I guess there's more ghosts at the start and then at the end?
Yeah, so the interesting thing is, because people go, well, if you see the ghost, you'll know where to go. And it's like, yeah, but it balances itself out because the further you go, the less ghosts there are because the less people got that far and died. So then the main system in this game of upgrading is you're trying to cleanse relics. And you get... So I said about the idea of only one person get the relic. That's the ultimate relic at the bottom. You can basically take an early exit, and that will give you like a low quality relic, which will then in turn, doing that will give you a new whip. And basically the whip is like your loadout.
And if you die, you get nothing, I presume.
If you die, if you die with a basic whip, then you die and you can never go in that temple again. If you die with a whip that you have unlocked, you lose that whip unless you pay to get it back or somebody else helps you recover it. Which is another interesting multiplayer system where you can send a friend code to your friend and then they can go and clear a temple for you to help you out and recover your whip. Because they've never been in that temple before, so they're allowed to go into it.
And each whip has some sort of ability then? Like
yes.
They do something different? Okay.
And this is what I was alluding to about what makes the ghosts interesting, is that some whips are just like, you basically will have a positive of you get the ability to have you start with an extra life, which is like pretty huge, right? But then it'll have like a downside, so it'll have a green and a red ability. So the green ability, like, you get extra health, and then the red ability is every time you take full damage, you take more damage or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I should talk about the Guardian as well. The longer you spend in a temple, a Guardian gets summoned. He never gets summoned on the first one, which is why you're not seeing him now. But every temple has its own Guardian. I think there's 3 of them. And the further you get, the angrier he gets and the more powerful he gets. And then some of the negatives of the whips, it makes the Guardian stronger, which is like pretty interesting.
Okay, that's interesting.
But the thing that makes Ghosts really interesting is that basics, in order to pick up coins, you have to, when there's a coin on the floor, you need to go and pick it up, like physically walk over it, and then it'll come towards you. If you find a chest lying on the floor and you whip it, the coins will come to you, which makes it getting through a lot quicker and a lot easier, and it means you don't have to face making the Guardian angrier and stronger when he chases you, right? Yeah. When you play with Ghosts, if they whip the chest before you get there, you then have to go and pick up the coins because you didn't get there first, which is pretty good. So you're kind of like speedrunning against your opponents who don't know your opponents. But then it gets even more interesting when there's actually whips which have one of the most interesting whips is there's a whip that has the negative of I'm trying to remember what it does now. It makes it so like you can't, touching a ghost harms you or something. It makes the ghosts really interesting. I'm trying to remember what it does. Let me look up the Phantom Abyss whips.
I assume that it has a really good buff, otherwise that sounds terrible.
Yeah, so here's another interesting thing that I should mention while I look this up. Okay. The negatives of the whip, if you manage to get a whip to one of those relics, you can actually cleanse the negative effect of a whip. So what a lot of the gameplay is what's happening is it's like, do I go further in the temple and do I take a chance to lose my whip, or do I go and get this relic here and cleanse this whip that has a really positive effect but also a bad negative effect? So you've got to ask the question, do I progress for later? Like get a better whip now so it help me in the future, or do I try and risk it all and get the ultimate prize from the temple? Which gets
so stuff to do in between the runs.
Yeah.
Anyway. Like it's kind of a road lights, I guess, in that case.
Let's have a look.
Okay. So like this loading screen, like it actually kind of like shows like how far you have to go to get to the end of the run.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it's all like procedurally generated as well, which is like pretty cool.
Like, I guess the code you send your friends is like the seed of like the dungeon you played. Oh, interesting though that like it must be like tracking what done, like it must like save all the seeds that you've done so you can't play them again.
Yeah, but there's like so many that it never comes up like running out of anything.
Oh yeah, I imagine.
I guess it's just like a string of numbers.
Yeah, I imagine there's many trillions upon trillions that could technically be generated.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be like Games Windows Live where you literally run out of keys because you really didn't think about it. That'd be stupid.
So like there's this whip, the bamboo whip's pretty interesting.
Is that what we're
Where
looking at now, or is this a different one?
no,
Okay.
I think I'm using just the normal whip.
Oh,
But
it's just
the
normal.
bamboo whip, this is like a positive for the phantoms. So if the positive is being within a meter of another phantom heals you every 2 seconds for half a heart. So this is when we actually want to stand near the ghosts. But the negative is every time you buy a blessing, it damages you for 1 heart, which is like a huge knockback. So that's one whip where it's like, it's really terrible in the beginning, but as soon as you cleanse it, it becomes like a really good whip. So here it is. It's called the DIY whip. So this is a really interesting one because you start at 4 hearts, which is like really big. But any chest a phantom gets to first will contain no coins for you. Which is why I'm saying like there's whips that make like the phantoms in this game really interesting. What you saw there as well is really interesting as well. As you progress through the runs, there will be shortcut doors. And so if you're in an area and you have low health and you're like, I'm about to die, but I really need to get to the end of this, you can actually trade coins to go through a shortcut to avoid obstacles. So if you're like, these obstacles are going to kill me, there's no way I can get through this, you can trade your ability to become stronger through blessings for a shortcut now so you can continue with the run, which is like a really interesting decision. This game is like, it's really well designed. Like you have so many like interesting decisions, and it's all like based on this really interesting little gameplay loop of run through a temple, avoid damage, basically. Which like, yeah, it sounds like because with all the stuff they've added, just doesn't get old ever really for me yet. Like I've played this quite a lot, and I'm still having fun playing it.
Well, the core movement system is fun, right?
Yeah, and all the trap stuff. And as you progress further into the temple, this is like the green temple. If when you go to the blue temple, you then have the blue temple tile set, and it has a completely different set of traps.
Oh,
And then when you get to the red temple, there's like lava and like boulders running down hills and stuff like that. But if you only play the green temples over and over again, you will like start to see like the same layout sort of thing.
Right. Yeah.
What are you gonna ask?
In your I guess I'll say testing. When you're playing it,
Yeah.
did you find like levels that were unfair in some way, or like did that not really come up?
Because of the procedural generation, are you asking?
Yeah.
I've seen it. Me personally, no, but I did see someone on Reddit where they had like a procedural generation where there was basically like a pillar in front of the door, so they literally couldn't proceed.
Oh, that's bad.
Like that's like rare bad procedural generation that can happen. This is what I was talking about. I think it's called the Anger Guardian, and he just slowly comes towards you throughout the entire level. And I'm like, shit, I need a key for this door. I have to run back towards the Guardian and grab this key.
Is he following you or just going towards the door?
He's always coming towards you.
Oh, okay, that's fine.
There's like one that shoots poison bombs at you, and he shoots more and more poison bombs as he becomes more powerful. This one gets faster. And then, of course, I think you saw before there was the Eyeball Guardian, which shoots a laser beam at you periodically that becomes quicker and quicker as you get further. Yeah. Before I finish, I'll talk about the blessing system, which is pretty interesting. Oh, this is telling you about how you can progress further into the temple, or you can go back and like save your progress with that whip or unlock new whips and stuff.
That's how you do that then, okay.
Yeah, basically, you get as you get to the end of a section, you get the choice whether to go deeper or to face the boss of that thing, which is basically
weighing up the risk rewards.
There's no like physical bot. The boss is basically. It told me to because this is still kind of the tutorial right now. It told me to not go through that door, and I was like, nah, fuck it. I'm gonna progress deeper into the.
Deeper, okay.
I was like, I gotta go deeper into the temple just to see what it's like. I'm not gonna follow the rules. Fuck that shit.
Follow the rules. Yeah.
But you'll collect like these like marks sort of things where you need those to open the doors. So you will need to like farm them, and then you also need those to buy whips. And in order to get back whips that you lose, you'll need like the currency you see there. But as you can see there, it's green. blue, red, yellow, and you'll get those relics based on the level you get. So now I'm in the blue one. I'll start earning blue coins.
Oh, so
And then so if I want to get the more powerful whips, I have to get the blue coin, the blue signs or coins or whatever in order to buy those. So I need to go further at a certain point, otherwise I won't be able to progress, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But the blessing system is like you buy a blessing. It's basically a perk you get. So you'll get a perk like your whip has a longer range, or you'll get an extra heart. And then every time you buy a blessing, these dart shooters are so annoying. So this is like, this is what some of the new traps work out as, and like it's pretty interesting because there is some whips. If you fall, you always take 1 heart of damage and it respawns you. So if you fall off the map, that's what happens.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's not great either though. No, there's no wall running.
Okay. Or wall jumping?
No.
Okay. So it's
well, there's because you'll see like one of the blue whips I think makes it so monkey statues don't target you or something like that.
Okay.
Travel speed of dart traps is significantly. Dart statue will no longer fire on the wooden whip, which is like a blue one, but that will make sense to you once you get to the blue area and you see how strong like the dart statues can be, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's tons of perks, and like there's lots of interesting ways to play this game thanks to the whips and the perks. There was already
I didn't expect the whips to be so interesting. Like I didn't realize that was a part.
A lot of them like completely change how you play the game.
Yeah.
Which is like pretty interesting. But there's definitely still a lot of whips that are just like, here's an extra heart, the Guardian is stronger. There are some like boring whips that, it's just some stat whips. But there are some like really interesting ones. There'll be a whip that means if you stand in water you can heal. But then it'll have a massive downside. And there's also a whip that has the negative, if you stand in water you get damaged. I have found, I think, there is like a exploit on one of the whips actually. There's already like an infinite like healing glitch, because one of the whips makes you immune to full damage. And then also there is a perk you can unlock that means every time you take full damage, there's a chance that you heal. Because when that whip prevents you from taking full damage, you're still technically taking the full damage, but you just don't lose the life. What happens is every time you take full damage, it stops you from taking that full damage, but it still activates the perk where you have a chance to heal. So you can just keep purposely taking full damage over and over again in order to heal. But in like actuality, from my testing, it just wasn't broken at all. Like I couldn't get it to. It took me so long to trigger it once that it wasn't even worth it.
Based, then?
There's just a chance, like a percent chance that it doesn't tell you, but it's like super low. So it's not like it wasn't abusable in any way. But it's interesting that like there is that theory crafting I see from people where they're like, you can take an interesting whip, pair it with a perk, and then figure out like really interesting stuff to do. Whether you think like that stuff should exist in a game like this, because there's always like those sort of builds in roguelike games that make them really interesting.
Yeah, it always makes fun more. Like I think anything like you got decisions to make is more interesting, right? And it makes sense for a roguelike.
But yeah, this game I got it on. I think I got it like when it came out, because I was like, I saw the trailer for this and I was like, it's really interesting. I really want to play it because it looks really fun, and it was on sale because of it basically came out on the Steam sale. The Steam's double sale.
They put it on sale for it still. That's nice.
Yeah. So.
That's just Devolver Digital. Like I find that.
That's the publisher. Yeah.
Yeah.
The people who make it are called Team Wibby, and this appears to be their first game.
I just say that. Yeah, again, Devolver Digital publish interesting games.
Well, I said
every game that you watch out for.
Whenever they publish a game, I look at it because it's usually interesting.
Even if it like doesn't sound like that's not really for me, like it's almost always worth.
Well, guys, on that death there, we gotta end the episode. Tangerine. That is Muck and Phantom Abyss, two fantastic little. They're both roguelike games, I guess. So. Definitely check those out. One's for free. Definitely check that one out. And then Phantom Abyss. I highly recommend it. I think it's about £20 off sale, but if you can get it on sale, it's about £15. So Definitely check that one out if this interests you at all, because it's genuinely really fun to play. Both of them.
Yeah.
So check them out. Bye.
Bye.